Hello and welcome to another episode. My name is Manny and this is Grubanny. Today I'll be showing you how to make some delicious alkaline vegan churros. Let's go to Mexico. So the origin story of churros is all over the place, but I'm going to stick with the version that claims that it originates from Spain or Portugal. However, today I'll be showing you how to make an alkaline vegan Mexican version. Let's get started. Believe it or not, the original recipe for churros contains only 3 ingredients: flour, salt, and water. But today, we'll be making it pop by adding a few more ingredients. To make it alkaline, we'll be using white spelt flour. You can use any other approved flour. Place the pot on medium-high, then add 1 cup of water. Feel free to use any approved alkaline vegan plant-based milk, but if you know me, you know I'll almost always go with walnut milk. Add 1 cup of walnut milk to the pot. Alkaline vegans only use pure sea salt, so we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of pure sea salt. Add half a cup of grapeseed or avocado oil, mix thoroughly and bring to a boil. Do your best to avoid splashes. When it starts to boil, add 2 cups of spelt flour and mix thoroughly with a wooden spatula. Now this is where you need to channel the strength of your ancestors, because you need to mix it like you're mixing African fufu. Mix it until all of the lumps are gone and you can easily form a ball. Also, when you move the ball to the side, you should see a clear film in the pot. When it looks like this, you can take it off the stove. This is when non-vegans will let it cool down before adding eggs. But since we're not adding eggs, we can move on to the next step. Add 1 cup of aquafaba and mix it thoroughly until all of the liquid disappears. Keep mixing until it looks something like this. Let it cool down almost completely. Now it's extremely important that you get the right piping tip for your churros. Today I'm using an open star piping tip, but the recommended piping tip is a closed star piping tip for making churros. Next, I recommend you invest in a reusable piping bag, as you risk getting tears and leaks if you use a single-use piping bag. I'll add links for both items in the description box below. Anyway, place your piping tip sharp side down into your piping bag. Feel free to cut the end of your piping bag so the piping tip protrudes a little like this. Put the piping bag into a tall, narrow jug and fold it over. You can also use your hand for the next step. Once your dough is cooled down, give it a final mix, then add a few dollops to your piping bag. It's very important to make sure it's quite cool to the touch. It's quite important not to fill up the piping bag to the brim, because you need to twist shut the wider opening of the piping bag to avoid spills during piping. For proof of concept, gently squeeze your dough through the piping bag until it partially exits the piping tip. This way, you would avoid any piping issues and you can see what shape your churros will take on when they hit the oil. Add some grapeseed oil or avocado oil to a pan. So whatever oil you use, you want to make sure it's an oil with a high smoke point. Bring your oil to anywhere between 360 and 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Speaking of Fahrenheit, this is a dangerous operation, so you'll need a fire extinguisher. And not just any fire extinguisher, you need a kitchen fire extinguisher, especially if you have a gas stove. Yes, it's quite serious, so get one. For those of you who don't like to fry stuff, yes, you can bake it. Start by placing some weights on your baking sheet. These will hold it in place while you pipe. To quicken the process, I'll be spraying the baking sheet with some avocado oil, but of course you can use a brush dipped in oil. Now gently pipe a few strips of dough over the oiled baking sheet. Make sure you're gently squeezing the tip of the piping bag against the walls of the piping tip to hold the piping tip in place. You can also cut your dough with a pair of scissors. This is highly optional, but you could give it a final spray with some oil, then bake in the oven at 15 to 20 minutes, then broil until you achieve a golden brown color or your desired color. You can also use an air fryer. I haven't tried it, but I know it's possible. You would need 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar, 2 tablespoons of date sugar, and a 1/4 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon. Mix it all together, then do your best to crush any lumps you find. You can also pass it through a sieve to make it easier on you. For some reason, I couldn't find my sieve today. I'm not sure what's happening. Here are some common mistakes people make when frying churros. I made them too, so I know. So you always want to make sure you have enough oil in the pan, at least 2 quarts of oil. Also, you want to make sure your oil temperature is not too high or too low. You also want to make sure you're securing your piping tip in place, otherwise it'll pop off. Finally, if you notice raw dough leaking out of your churros, it means your oil temperature is too low. Your oil temperature should be between 360 and 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Gently pipe your dough into the hot oil. Be careful as you could burn yourself. Snip it off with a pair of scissors and let it fry until golden brown. When it's done, it should look like this, or it could have a deeper color. Repeat the process for however many you want and pay attention. You could also pinch off the dough using your fingers. So I was busy capturing that beautiful B-roll and I wasn't paying attention, and this is what I got. It's still very edible, if not more delicious. Now you want to make sure you're placing your churros into the sugar and spice mix as soon as you bring them out of the oil. The heat and the oil will help the sugar stick better to the churros. Anyway, here you go. I was also filming and I wasn't paying attention most of the time, hence the difference in color. Again, you want to place your churros in the sugar and spice mix while they're still hot. So it should look something like this, and when you break it apart, your dough should be cooked on the inside too. Now let's check on our baked churros. They're kind of flat, but it's okay, it's still churros. Repeat the process. So I know there's a better way out there to bake churros and keep the shape. I didn't really experiment with the baking method, but it came out tasting really good. If you happen to know what I did wrong to make it lose its shape, let me know in the comment section below. I'm suspecting it's the oil or the temperature. Traditionally, churros are eaten with melted chocolate, but Alkaline Vegans do not have that option, so date syrup is your best bet. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all next week.